What is utilitarianism? Utilitarianism is one of the worst ideas of modern philosophy. In fact, if you follow this idea, you will end up entrapped in a false idea of happiness that leads only to disappointment and sorrow. And in fact, this is just what we see in our world today, where so many people are lost and mired in bitterness and regret. Utilitarianism is a theory developed by Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill in the 19th century. According to this theory, the morality of an action is determined solely by the amount of happiness produced. And very importantly, utilitarians go on to define happiness as feelings of satisfaction. You got that right. Happiness is all about feelings. You should always act to increase satisfaction for the greatest number of people. Now, initially, one can see the appeal here. We've all experienced satisfaction and pleasure, and it's perfectly natural to desire these feelings. And certainly we should not seek out pain or dissatisfaction. Nevertheless, to seek satisfaction as your primary or only goal is deeply misguided and will lead only to disappointment. The major problem with this theory is its false idea of happiness. If satisfaction is my only goal or the only part of my happiness, then almost anything can be justified. On this view, nothing is intrinsically evil or intrinsically prohibited. Ethics becomes entirely situational and relative. I can lie, break promises, abandon my spouse, put my career before my family, or just whatever in order to make myself feel more satisfied. In fact, this is just what we see in our society today, and sadly, one of the clearest examples is divorce. The motivation of so many marriages is personal satisfaction. But mature people know that marriage is hard. It's great, but it's difficult, not always satisfying. Probably one of the leading causes of divorce is that people enter into marriage seeking their personal satisfaction, but then their spouse doesn't satisfy them all the time. And they end up thinking, I'm just not happy. Maybe a friend comes along and says, you gotta do whatever makes you happy. And so the marriage ends up being abandoned in order to increase satisfaction. Just think about how ironic that is. People divorce in order to increase satisfaction, but divorce actually damages society, families, and children. What we need to do is return to a deeper and far more ancient understanding of happiness. Aristotle and the other great philosophers teach us that happiness does not primarily consist in feelings, but in human excellence, in a life well lived. Practically, this comes down to practicing virtue, practicing wisdom, friendship, justice, courage, and self-control. We need to return to this wise path mapped out for us by the great philosophers. At Catholic Studies Academy, students are going to be given the opportunity to study the ethical lessons of classical philosophy in a flexible and affordable way. I hope that you'll give us the opportunity to serve you and support your intellectual growth. God bless.